The committee of whole meeting to order. Councilwoman Bell is present, Vice Mayor Losner, Councilwoman Roman, Councilwoman Garner, and Mr. Porter stepped out. Motion to approve the August 28, 2007 minutes moved by Councilwoman Bell. Is that second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilwoman Garner. Any comments on the August 28, 2007 minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 2005 Disaster Recovery Initiative Grant Application, tab 2.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is the 2005, as you said, Disaster Recovery Initiative Grant Application and Resolution. We know that the resolution, we're looking for transmittal of this for tonight because we're on a timeline with the county, but the resolution can go follow it, and we'll have that on if you approve it at the next council meeting. The federal HUD has a supplemental appropriation for the 2005 Hurricane Wilma disaster and damages. The state of Florida got $77.4 million, of which State County got $22 million in funding, and now they are reaching out to their cities to put in an application for grant money, in which they need it by the 13th because they have to get it to DCA by the 30th of September, so they have to roll it up, and so that's why they need it by the 13th. The amount, we have two projects. One is housing and the other is infrastructure. We have not prioritized those. That will come from you how you want us to do it. But we put in for two projects, $3 million for the housing with 90,000 admin, and for infrastructure in the public works area, drainage in particular, we put in for $761,736 with $22,856 for admin.
Mayor, question?
Go ahead. That's just generic.
And this is the general budget, not CRA budget?
This is used all over the city.
All over the city?
Yes.
I would prefer to, pardon me.
It will really belong in the CDBG, has its own fund, so it's a separate fund.
But it can be used citywide, not restricted, I think was where you're going, to CRA.
Right, I really would like to see, one input from all council, but I really would like to see the majority of these funds going into infrastructure. That is where our biggest need is in infrastructure. And I see we have a big chunk in housing and a small amount in infrastructure. I think it definitely should be reversed. We've got to really work on the infrastructure in the city of Homestead.
But I think it's restricted to housing and infrastructure.
Depending on the restrictions, whatever.
There are certain restrictions. It has to be on activities that were impacted in some way by Hurricane Wilma. And that is why it was chosen to do the drainage in downtown.
Absolutely.
And Public Works already had some figures and some cost factors, and though not designed, some ideas of what it would take to alleviate the flooding in downtown. And that's what was applied for very narrowly just for that, because that was the big infrastructure impact that we suffered from Hurricane Wilma. The housing and the money, the $22 million that Kurt spoke of, approximately a third of it, a little over $5 million, a fourth of it, can be spent on infrastructure by the whole county. Roughly $16 million can be spent on housing by the whole county. That's the division the state has created. So the county's only going to fund a little over $5 million in total in infrastructure projects and about $16 million in housing projects. So we've got to apply for something that we've got a project for in infrastructure. In housing, we're estimating there's probably still another 30 or so houses in the city that still have blue roofs or other damage that still remains from Hurricane Wilma. And that's a citywide activity. Our last grant application for this, they required that we do that application in an area that was significantly low and moderate income, which happened to be the Southwest neighborhood area. This time, that was not part of the requirement. We can do any home in the city occupied by low and income family. We did not have to undertake the activities in a smaller geographic area with a large low and moderate income population like we had to last time. That's why we were able to put in a citywide housing application. Will we get to 3 million? Even if we get selected for housing, we're not going to get 3 million. We're not going to get 3 of the 16. But we asked for 3 million last time and we got 750,000. I don't want to say I'll be satisfied with that this time, but we're not going to get $3 million. What the council has to do is tell us which is the priority project so we can turn this in day after tomorrow. We were advised of this application less than 2 weeks ago. So all of this has been done in 2 weeks. This is the time frame we have. So that the council needs to tell us whether you want us to prioritize the infrastructure or the housing.
I'm getting the impression that you could, is either or, we could ask for so much in infrastructure and so much in housing.
We can ask for both,
Yeah.
but we've got to pick up, this is our number 1 project, this is our number 2 project.
Mr. Mayor, I participated in some of the discussion when we met with the city manager about, setting up what we need to do. And the project that was selected downtown, because it really has a benefit to the entire community practically. And the infrastructure in downtown only for the flooding, it's in excess of $7 million what we need to do to really have very serious impact on the area. And what Julio and his staff put with the help of Rick and his staff is something is going to be definitely a great help to the stormwater utility. Remember, stormwater utility is really that's not me. A small enterprise fund. I hope I don't offend anybody being the infrastructure guy if I ask council to make that our number 1 priority. I know housing is also important, but in terms of priorities, we really like to put that as number 1 priority and housing number 2, and hopefully we get both.
I have no problem with it. Ms. Bell?
Yes, I agree. After Hurricanes Wilma and Katrina, when I drove down Chrome Avenue in a very big truck, my husband's plumbing truck, to check on the downtown businesses, they were completely underwater. And actually, that's when I found it was Pat McLeod sweeping out the Old Town Hall Museum and called you on the telephone to get somebody down there to help her. Those businesses were completely underwater. My husband actually went and disconnected the electrical at Jacobson's because they had electric in the floor. So, I mean, that's a desperate need, and I know housing is always a concern. We keep doing a lot in the area of housing, but I think we must start prioritizing and really deal with these needs we have. I think it should be infrastructure first, and then housing should be second this time around. And that would be my preference as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments? Mr. Vice Mayor?
That would be my preference as well. I think we've done our housing bit for this week.
Any other comments? Infrastructure? Consensus infrastructure, we need to vote on it? Let's have let's say all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good.
Next item, Mayor and Council was added on. It came to us last week. It's called, the title is, subject is termination and release of the right of reverter, capital improvements undertaking, and other covenants for James Archer Smith Hospital. Basically, as you know, the hospital's moved out to their new hospital. There's a contract to sell the hospital to the school board for a magnet school in the medical area. In making the transfer and getting clear title, there was in the sale, it started, I guess, to South Miami Hospital, there was some reverter language in there that if the South Miami Hospital did not do some of the some construction that needed to be done and some equipment, buy some equipment, then it could revert back to the city if they did not fulfill $7 million worth of improvements. When South Miami Hospital sold to Baptist Health Systems, that whole package was assigned to them. and they are carrying that with them. Of course, we know that that's all been done 2 times over the 15 years or 17 years.
Mayor, I'll move this. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for the city of Homestead to have a high school over on the west side, so I'm definitely going to move this.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell, is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilwoman Garner. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Now this will, we had representatives from Baptist, but this will appear on our next council meeting, the 17th. Is that correct, 17th?
Yes.
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 And now to make it final, this is a COW, but they're just moving it forward. It'll probably be on the consent agenda. Would they need to return for that?
I don't think so.
I figure that might be wondering that. Okay.
Ms. Roman?
Thank you, Mayor. We have on the agenda again tonight the discussion of the internal auditor position. I've been thinking a lot about this in the last few months, and there's been some things that maybe I haven't made, things that have been in my mind that maybe I just need to say out loud. I just want to make it very clear that it was in 2002 the internal auditor position was added to the charter. According to the charter, I had it a few seconds ago, Section 5.09, the position of the auditor is not required to be a full-time position. I think a lot of people have a misconception about that. In 2003, an internal auditor was hired. It was Grow & Company, and they did an extensive audit on the customer service department of our city. And I didn't have time today to go through all the minutes, but I believe, is Marcy here tonight? Oh, there she is. Miss Marcy. I'm sorry, I just had a root canal yesterday, so I'm lacking sleep here. But in 2004, I believe it was, we had a management meeting and a job announcement and job description went out. Is that not correct, Marcy? After the 2003 internal auditor, which was Grow & Company, that came in and did the audit. And it took many months for that audit to be done, and that was on customer service.
It was actually in 2005.
2005. I know in 2005, okay, 2005, all right. But I had minutes for 2004 where we did discuss the internal auditor, and I think we were working on the on the position and the job description and things like that at that
Yes.
time. Okay. I knew there was something done there. So in 2005, it went out on public notice for internal auditor, and Marcy, you might want to comment on this as far as the applications go. We just didn't receive hardly any, and you want to say your reason why you think we didn't.
Well, in 2005, we put it on our website. We also put ads in all of the normal position papers that we put in, Miami Herald, as well as the government group of internal auditors, Careers in Government, Florida League of Cities. We put it everywhere. And we also hired a couple headhunters to find people. The job market was very limited in positions, and at that time, we didn't even post a salary. We weren't even getting anyone from that type of, at that time, in 2005.
There's been many comments made about the internal auditor that was hired. We had another gentleman that was highly qualified, and it happened to be that he had some personal problems and wasn't able to take the job. But, you know, it's been said over and over and over that Mr. Albrighton saved us. I've heard figures of $200,000, I've heard figures of $300,000. But I just want to put all the cards on the table to make you understand that it's not just because of one person. This could be an outside source, it could be an internal source, and I hope that's what we're here tonight to decide. But a lot of talk has been made about the license plates and how that saved us over $100,000 a year. That never was even put into place and Sheila was able to find me just a few of the license plates so I can show you why. They weren't acceptable. They're not acceptable on the road. Once they get back from Fleet, and Julio, you're in the audience, you know, the license plates are just not any good. So that plan to put forth saving $100,000 with license plates, in theory it sounds wonderful, but unfortunately, you know, it just didn't happen. These are so dirty. But they just aren't allowed. They're not allowed on the streets. So that plan was never put into fruition. Do you know if it was, Manager? I mean, that was my conversation with Sheila today, that it was never put into fruition.
That's correct.
So not a penny had been saved on that. Now, the other matter with the time cards, yes, I believe, and I'm not going to speak for you, Ms. City Manager, but certainly you can jump in here anytime. It was the city manager that, it was the city manager that did the audit, it was the city manager who first discovered a discrepancy in time cards in development services. And did you or did you not ask the auditor to go down and just investigate it a little further? And then according to my notes, he brought it back to you, and then you did an internal investigation with Human Resources. Is that correct?
Yes, there was two things on the time cards. One is setting procedures, and that's one of the things that he initiated
and that's
himself.
Wonderful.
And the other was the specific incident in development services where we had suspected maybe some not less than honest time card punching was going on. We initiated that investigation and called him in to assist with HR and our people in the manager's office to look into that. We took care of that.
I just think it's very important that the public realizes, and I'll probably say this again at the council meeting, is that, you know, our internal auditor, although I think he had the best interest of the city at heart when he was doing these investigations, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's the one that saved the city all these hundreds of thousands of dollars, because the manager was already on top of that situation. Human Resources had already been called in on it. He assisted the city in saving that money, and I just think that's very important. But I think the most important point are these license plates, because I hear it over and over and over, and this has never, ever saved us one penny of money because it's never been utilized, because it can't be utilized because it's not legal. So the reason I'm saying all this tonight is that I just want this to be a clear understanding that this auditor does not, according to charter, have to be full-time. It can be part-time. More than happy to do whatever this council desires. If you want an internal auditor full-time on staff, fine. But it can be outsourced. So, that being said, I'll open it up to Mr. Porter.
Mr. Weiss.
Am I running this? I'm sorry.
No, it's none of your business.
All right, Mr. Porter.
The way that we utilize your company as a attorney, a city attorney, you have specialists in your organization to come down here and represent the city on specific cases. You have land use, you have all sorts of things. Are there auditing firms out there that operate similarly to the way you operate, where they have specialists to come in? As we talked about before, some of the things that we wanted to some of us wanted to take a look at was more the procedural, operational issues that we had in some of the departments, whether it be utilities, fleet, whatever. Are there firms out there that would be able to have experts in the field that we could call on an as-need basis, similar to how we use you now?
The answer is I think that there are, but I don't know. I can't give you the name of any.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying because I like the pattern that we use with your firm, because in the past when we had a full-time city attorney, there was a lot of cases where we had to go out and get a specialist to come in to assist the full-time city attorney because they were things that were outside of his or her expertise. And I think that if we get a full-time auditor in-house, I think we're going to find ourselves in a similar situation where there's going to be expert issues that are going to fall outside the the operational understanding of an internal auditor. So I prefer to utilize basically the format that we use with the attorney's office right now, having an outside firm, being able to call in on an as-need basis for the specific issue at hand. That's my 2 cents, because I like the way the attorney's office functions for us now. I think it's a better overall professional fit and mix for a complicated municipal government like we find ourselves in.
Thank you. I came in on the tail end of that, but I did catch some of what you were referring to. I'm personally sitting here and wondering why are we discussing the past auditor when we're discussing about the future auditor position. I think that we're talking about more smokescreen here to try to justify not hiring the auditor as the voters intended. That being said, I actually heard about the license plate, how much he had saved from the license plate from you, Ms. Waldman. It was at the council meetings when you brought that up. Right, so I would have not known that had you not brought that up. So when I repeat that, it was because I had heard it from you.
I just found out today.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying. It's something that was out there that was presented as a fact, and I actually heard it from you, Ms. Waldman. The other thing about whether it was $200,000 working with HR and with Ms. Kamali and with the manager's office, who cares? Who cares? There was work done. The auditor was doing his job. I know for a fact that he was watching certain employees go in and watching certain employees go out and catching them along with. And that's the statement that I made, that he helped save the city close to $200,000 along with staff, along with the Development Services Department. I don't get the point. I don't get it. It's just, he got fired. First he was a good guy, then he was a bad guy. He got fired. Let's move on. Let's get this auditor position filled and just quit this going back to this and back to this. I mean, I don't get it. I'm sorry. Just nonsense to me.
You know, this has been a real difficult issue, I think, for everyone, and I think that's an understatement. But at this point, if you tell us in like 3 or 4 things, and to get us off the dime here, and staff can bring something to you for you to vote on, or you know, a workshop, or do however you want to handle it. But I think if we know whether you want an employee or a firm, if you can tell us that, whether you want them full-time or part-time, who's directing where they get their task, I think that's going to be important, because then we can look at whether you have an audit committee, and we can look and research, and some of that's been done through Richard and others, about how their tasks should be done, whether you use an auditing committee or whether you designate someone. And we looked at it, and it's across the board on how their tasks are directed. And last, I think we need to look at the salary. The salary you offered before is not going to get us the quality I think you're looking for. I know it won't get us a firm, and I don't think the salary would get us a good individual, a real quality individual that we're paying. So we may want to look at that as well and make a recommendation back to you.
Well, what was that salary again?
It was 59.
Mr. Albritton was at 70.
Oh, 70.
And we had probably 3 applicants.
We had 3. Only 2 were held the qualifications as far as the certifications that they needed. And that was over, what, Marcy, a year and a half?
Yeah, that was a long time. So we're missing something somewhere. So, I mean, if we can get that information, we move forward, and we can put out the job announcement. We're ready. We've got one. We've got their instructions here, that their job description and tasks written. We're ready to go with that part of it. I just think we need to, get direction on how it is, and we'll get this thing, however you want to do it, as council, cranked up and moving.
Question. One question. Isn't the simplest question right now to get direction? Do we want an internal full-time staff person, or do we want to go with a firm? Because then if we decide as a group that we want to go with a firm, then you can go out and seek the firms to come in and give us advice, or we can have discussions on what they can do for us, as opposed to sitting here. If we don't get past full-time in-house employee or outside firm, we're never going to get past anything.
Exactly. That's true.
So, I mean, if we get that decided first from the vote of the council, then you can bring back to us further information, and then we can start tearing through that. So, you know, for the sake of time, I'm going to make a motion right now that we go forward and seek a firm to come in and talk about that's when we talk about the numbers, the costs, the levels of expertise, all the things that we don't know right now. And then we'll have to be able to say, can we afford to do that? Is this what we want to do? But if you go with an in-house person, you're going to have to pay them $120,000, $150,000. Still go outside and bring in outside people as well. So I think we just have to get past that. So I'm going to offer up a motion for a firm.
Motion's been made
I'll
by
second the motion.
by Mr. Porter and seconded by...
I think that would also bring an outside perspective. You know, they're coming in on a case-by-case basis. They're not here all the time dealing with all the staff. So it's not someone that everyone knows. They come in, they do their job, they're out.
Any other comments?
Ms. Walden?
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. As this discussion and this concept has come to the forefront again over the last 6 weeks, I've been reminded that the job of an auditor, not the auditor, an auditor, is at least twofold. On the one hand is looking at efficiencies and fraud protection on the one hand, and fraud detection on the other. I think that's where we were more with the efficiencies and the protection with the firm and detection with the individual. Having said that, I think I've come to reconcile in my mind, and again, I'm not addressing parameters and how the assignments are given and where they go and what controls may or may not be there, that it would seem to me that the best source for both of those issues, efficiencies and detection, would probably be to look at hiring a firm for that wide range of expertise. I don't think it's going to be very likely that we would have an individual at a reasonable price range that would be interested or capable or qualified to do both on an in-house full-time, or at least on an in-house basis. And I think that maybe at first blush, looking at a firm that on one end of the hallway has the efficiency and the protection people, and at the other end of the hallway has the detection person, that once we get beyond that, then we can figure out allocation of time and decide what their scope of services will be. I think it's going to be probably much easier to get an auditor in place
Quickly.
under the firm concept versus the individual. Then we can address the issue, the devil in the details issue of who's going to do what and how and when.
Madam Chair, please. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that's the direction we should take. With the exception of the county, they have a huge department of internal auditor. I know in the private sector, most folks have firms that come in and selectively, on an on-call basis, perform internal auditing function. And I think even at the school board level, I've been reading the papers. There's some controversy now with the city auditor, the city of Miami. I know the school board fired theirs recently, and I mean, but more importantly, to hire an auditor, at some point, Mr. Albritton would need some technical, some administrative assistance. So when I look at the budget, you're talking about 70 or more. You would, if you get a real qualified auditor, you could pay $107,000 salary. And then you get an assistant, that's another $40,000, and I think you can probably get a firm for a year for less than that. If according to what you have them to do, but if you selectively select areas, 1 or 2 a year, and do a comprehensive review, I think you won't pay as much out. Ms. Waldman brought up at the last meeting about an audit committee. I've seen that in most, on the private side and on the public side, where you have, and I would say from the elected official, whoever the mayor select as the chair of the finance budget, a member of the manager's staff, and a citizen to sit as an audit committee could work, would avoid any interference. But the bottom line is, people are afraid to embrace this. You have good city managers, bad city managers. Good assistant city managers, bad assistant city managers. Good auditors, bad auditors.
Good counsel, bad counsel.
Good councilman, bad councilman. But we had a bump in the road. We had a bad auditor. We're going to replace that auditor. Hopefully the next one, this firm can carry out that function. But we're going to have to be careful on what firm, because some of them have exorbitant fees, and that's why an audit committee could very selectively look at areas of weakness and bring them in to do a comprehensive review. But I don't think that should happen too often, because remember now, you do have services from your external auditor. Anytime you have a problem, you could bring in your external auditor to look at some things too. They just don't have to do the annual audit. They can come in and look at some specific areas for you along with our finance director and bring a report to the manager and the council. So there's some flexibility there, but I like what the Vice Mayor and Mr. Porter put on the table. I think that would be my recommendation to go with a firm. They got most expertise there. They can call in people within their staff. You have to hire somebody from the outside to do a specialized audit. So that would be my recommendation too. I would support that recommendation.
Mayor, I just want to add to that, and thank you. I think you're absolutely right. But first we have to put something in place, and then we'll decide whether the panel will work or whatever. But I just want to piggyback on what you said, Mayor, about our external auditors. We have 2 external auditors, and they look into the payroll of all the departments. They look into everything, don't they, Jan? I mean, there's nothing left unturned. And I think that's what so often people put out a wrong message about. This city is scrutinized from one end to the next. There's nothing left unturned. And I think we should utilize our external auditors more if there's a question. And I think what you said, Mayor and Vice Mayor, about our manager, it's our manager's responsibility that if he finds something that he doesn't believe is right, that he needs to do his own internal audits within the departments. And I think we've done that clearly. So with that being said, we have a first, we have a second. Any other comments from council? Any public comments? Roll call. And the motion is to look into, seek information about a firm.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
No.
Councilwoman Gardner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Wallman. Ms. Bell?
Yes, bid 200728 janitorial services.
Councilwoman Bell, Mayor and Council, we have bid out janitorial services for several departments within the city. We recommend, it's Evaluations Committee recommendation and mine as well, that the bid be awarded to United States Services Industry for providing these custodial services. You will note that they are the second lowest bidder.
I saw that.
In researching the first lowest bidder, there were negative comments by their references.
I'll move the recommendation, Madam Chair.
It's been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Second bid, Tonka filters for wastewater treatment plant, tab 5.
Yes. Councilwoman Bell, Mayor and Council, it's our recommendation that we go with Tonka Equipment Company as a sole source.
Move the recommendation.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from council? All in favor, say aye. And the ayes...
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes carry. Thank you. Item C, increase in solid waste rates.
This rolls back to the budget. There are 3 items, and 2 of them were mentioned in the budget, 1 wasn't, but it's not for a budget item.
Move the recommendation. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the audience? Any comments or questions from council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Item D, increase in water and sewer rates, tab 7.
Move the recommendation.
2%.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the audience? Comments or questions from council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Item E, Special Events Grant Fund, tab 8.
This is a recommended award to New Visions of South Dade, Inc.
Move the recommendation. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the audience?
Question, Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Garner?
There's a balance left in that special events, and is that rolling to next year, or is that going away with the committee?
Go away at the end of the year.
What a shame.
It'll fall back into the
It's going to be absorbed back into the budget. Maybe that's part of our Christmas tree light money.
71 shows you available balance of 7,100.
Move it over.
Back, but I don't believe that was funded for next year.
Okay, that's what I was saying, it was going to go away.
Special events budget was not funded for next year.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Garner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Porter?
Tab 9, purchase of network switches. Mr. Manager?
Yes, Mr. Porter, Mayor and Council, it's staff's recommendation to authorize the purchase of 7 Cisco network switches and ancillary equipment from AT&T Business Systems. We're piggybacking off a state contract, which is in keeping with our code. The reason for the need is a combination of things. One, it's our combined growth, in which we're getting a lot more traffic coming in, and the need for expanded...
Move the recommendation. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Ms. Bell, second. I moved and Ms. Bell, second. Any business for the committee, Ms. Bell?
No, sir.
Mr. Vice Mayor? Any business?
No, thank you.
Ms. Wallman?
Yes.
Ms. Garner?
No business, Mayor.
Mr. Porter?
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Manager, any?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Attorney? Thank you all very much for coming. The committee of the whole, the meeting is adjourned.